In this video, as promised, we are going to create our first virtual machine, and then we are going to tunnel to it. So you'll go to the website indicated by your instructor, vm.cs.dixie.edu, and log in with your CIT credentials. If you've forgotten those, you need to contact your instructor, but it's the same username and password used to log into the machines in our lab. Okay, so at this page you will see running machines, which the first time you log in you won't see any running machines. The red area would be non-running machines. And then down here we're going to have create a virtual machine. Now as I created mine, we're going to maybe say F21 IT1100, and this is going to be my graphical user interface. We're going to bump it up to 2 gigs of RAM and 16 gig hard drive. Now pay attention to the instructions that your instructor gives you. Also on the right hand side you should have an allotment for this course, a network IP space allotment, as well as a VLAN number. If you do not have any IP ranges checked out to you, you need to visit with your instructor. But I'm going to choose the VLAN that's checked out to me for IT1100, and then I click plus. Once I click plus, it should show up here in my non-running machine list. So let's see, right here, F21 IT1100 GUI. And great. Now the first time we boot it, we're going to boot from the D drive. And remember, only the first time, or when we're doing the installation, it's kind of, you can kind of think of it as if the machine was physically in front of you, and instead of booting it from the hard drive, you want to boot it from maybe the flash drive that you plugged in, or the DVD that you've inserted. And then we're going to come over here to Focal Desktop. Focal is the most recent version of Ubuntu that we're going to install. So Focal Desktop, and then we'll click the green button. Now it'll take a moment. When it finally goes, as I hope it will here in a second, we'll see it pop up here in this running machine area, and we'll give that just a minute. So here we are, F21 IT1100 GUI. Now the most important part of this, so it's up and running right now. It's waiting for us to connect to it. It's as if we had put the installation media in the computer right in front of us. We turn the machine on, and now the installer should have started. But the trick is trying to connect to it. And I said on the last set of slides, we have to build a tunnel to it, and we have to pay attention to port numbers. Now it shows me right here this VNC port. These two pieces of information are critical. This is the name of my machine that it's running on. So I have a collection of 5 or 6 machines that it could be running on. One of the machines' name is Cleopatra, one's Antony, Ophelia, so forth and so on. And then so I want to connect to Cordelia 6055. That's the port number. Now, so first what we're going to do is build a tunnel. So I'm going to back out here. So we're going to connect. Make sure that you are at, this is always a trick that students miss out. Yours is going to be the same prompt as mine, but you need to make sure you're at your local machine. If it says SSH here or Scratch or something like that, you're on the wrong machine. You have to do it from your local machine. So you could close all your terminals and open one back up. So we're going to create an SSH connection to ssh.cs.dixie.edu. So I'm creating a connection to my SSH server, and -L, this is a flag we're passing to SSH that says you're going to do some port forwarding here. And that's where I need to come back and look at this again. So it's Cordelia 6055. Okay, so I'm just going to type in Cordelia 6055 and 6055 there as well. If you want the longer explanation as to why you're putting those numbers there, you'll have to take the networking class. But pretty much this says I want to connect to a machine called Cordelia. After I connect to SSH, I want to connect to a machine called Cordelia and connect to port 6055. And then on my local machine, I want to access it at 6055. We hit enter. You might have to put in your password. If you've set up passwordless SSH, then you won't have to put in a password. Okay, I built the tunnel. Now all I have left to do is connect to it. So I'm going to use a VNC viewer. And depending on your operating system, it might be named something a little bit different. But the gist of it is we're going to connect to localhost 6055. And mine might say, okay, I don't care, continue. And here we are. As promised, we are at the desktop. It's waiting for me to do the installation. Now I'm going to do the installation in the next video. But a couple of things here is this command will work if you are, obviously I'm doing mine from a Mac, but it will also work if your host operating system is Linux, and it will also work if your host operating system is Windows. However, with Windows 10, you may have to go into your system preferences and make sure that the Linux subsystem for Windows is installed. If you type this command you open up your PowerShell prompt or your command prompt, and you type in a command, something like that, and it says SSH command not found, well, then you have to do a little bit more research and make sure you install that and enable it. This is going to be your username. That's going to be the same for everybody. And then once again, this is going to change depending on what you saw on that last site.